So in Chapter 1, we're going to be talking about assistive technology, specifically as it relates to the law um, around children with disabilities, and we're talking about, of course, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Now, the law idea identifies two important components pertaining to assistive technology. So it's the actual device, and there's a lot that goes into the selection of an AT device for a child, but it's also the services needed to support the child in using the assistive technology. So we're talking about any device that increases, maintains, or improves functional capabilities of a child with disabilities. And these photos are just some examples, but really it's any technology that will support the independence of the child. Then what is the service? Well, the service is really important. We're talking about service for those involved in supporting the child to learn the technology, such as teachers and parents, but also to maintain the technology as well. So also the service around selection, acquisition of the technology as well, because some of this technology, whether expensive or not, need to be acquired. It might be that there's a loan period so that the child can try the device out. The AT continuum consists of low-tech, mid-level technology, as well as high-tech technology as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But essentially, we're talking about some things that are not as sophisticated, may not take a long time to learn, but then we are talking about things that are very, very high level in terms of technology. So low-tech devices would be things like calculators, things that are just inexpensive. It could be some type of magnification, pencil grips, again, easy to learn. Sometimes they're referred to as gadgets, that kind of thing. Mid-tech devices will be, somewhere in between. Generally, they are electronic in nature. They could be things like you could buy at a local technology store, like a Staples, such as the big red button that will may speak for the child, yes or no. They're much less expensive than the high-tech level technology, and they do require less training. And here there's examples of some communication boards with photos on or pictures. And these would be considered mid-tech. When we get into high-tech devices, we really are talking about the more complicated technology, computer technology. My initial training was a number of years ago with a computer device that looks much like the one in this photo. It had 126 symbols on it. Really, we were talking about the type of device that more higher functioning academically students were using at the time. Does require training, may require service to keep in good shape. Also is generally more expensive. But I do want to say that now with iPads and certain computers really having more accessibility features, the price of the technology maybe is definitely going down. So there is a legal basis for supporting children to have assistive technology. And we're not just talking about IDEA, but also Section 504, as well as the ADA, or the Americans with Disabilities Act. In 1997 was really one of the first times, one of the first reauthorizations. We know that the first federal law was in 1975, so it wasn't until 1997 where we really start to see AT defined in the law and really considered at any great length. And then in 2004, again with the authorization of the law again, there is priority status to funding projects that promote both universal design for learning, because technology is really a big part of universal design for learning, as well as the assistive technology services and devices. So, but in terms of the other laws, besides IDEA, Section 504 states that all students with disabilities, even those not eligible for special education, are entitled to accommodations, and that could include assistive technology. So as teachers, we need to be aware of assistive technology, not just for those children that are served via an IEP, but also those children served under Section 504. And then the American with Disabilities Act, being a civil rights piece of legislation to prevent discrimination, really requires that people have access and protections, and that auxiliary aids and services must be provided to make things accessible. So when we think of ADA, think of accessibility, and assistive technology may be needed for people to have access. There are some national developments. Certainly, we have the United States Department of Education really starting to address technology. So we have a National Education Technology Plan, and again, AT would come under technology. We also have Common Core state standards, and we need to provide learning support, assistive technology devices, and services so that all students have access to the Common Core curriculum. So assistive technology should be seen as the great equalizer for students with disabilities, making sure that they can access material, that they can communicate, that they can participate. Computers provide access to activities and opportunities, and so that's what we're looking at. We need to integrate assistive technology, and so assistive technology, where can we use that in the curriculum? Where do we need to use that in the curriculum? How can the student best access and learn with assistive technology? So assistive technology in the classroom certainly is used for all academic areas as well, but also to support independence. So when we have children who need to be more independent in just getting around the school, participating in extracurricular activities as well, assistive technology plays a part. So the core principles. People with disabilities have the right to maximize their independence and participation in all environments. Technology can be harnessed to diminish or eliminate environmental barriers. People with disabilities have the right to control and direct their own choices and the right to access the information they need in order to make informed decisions. And people with disabilities have the right to employ assistive technologies, strategies for implementation, and necessary training support to maximize their independence. So we do need to talk about, how do you decide what is appropriate AT for a child? How will we know what? And we want to make sure that it is the right technology, and that at different times in the child's life, the technology may change. So the process, or a good framework for a decision-making process, is referred to as the SET process, focusing on the student, the environment the child functions in, to include out of the school environment, the tasks that the child needs to perform, and the tools that the child needs, the child needs to be able to do these things. So the SET is a decision-making process that we all should be familiar with. So skills. What problems does the student have with schoolwork? How can technology support that? What are the student's strengths? What are the student's interests? The environment. These are, again, questions that we ask in the SET process. What materials and equipment are currently available in the environment? What is the physical arrangement? Are there special concerns that we have to consider in the physical environment? What is the instructional schedule? What supports are available for the student? Will the student need additional supports? And what resources are available to the people that are going to support the students? Because teachers need to learn all of these devices as well. The tasks. We need to look at the tasks of the student. What does the student need to be able to do? What activities take place in the environment that support the student's curriculum? What are the critical elements of the activities, and how might the activities be modified to accommodate the student's special needs? And the tools. How might this technology support the student's participation? What strategies might be used to improve the student's performance? And what no-tech, low-tech, and our high-tech options should be considered for this student in these environments? So we need to match the student to the technology. We're not just throwing technology out there to sit in a closet because it didn't work. We need to really consider the student's needs, abilities, expectations, And then what can the technology do to support the child? We also need to consider universal design for learning, right? So AT comes essentially under this umbrella, and CAST is the organization. If you were to Google CAST, you'd find their professional organization and website that really helps us to understand universal design for learning. And essentially, they say that the design of products and environments to be usable by all people to the greatest extent possible without need for adaptation or specialized design. So they're looking at for lesson planning and everything we do in schools to be designed in a way that it's universal for all children. But if assistive technology needs to be a part of that, then certainly that's provided to the child. Universal design for learning increases flexibility in teaching and decreases the barriers that prevent students from accessing materials in classroom activities. So we'll be coming back to that in this course. But essentially what we're talking about is the development of curriculum and lessons that provide students with multiple means to represent their work, multiple ways to show what they're capable of, multiple ways to essentially differentiate the ways they can express their work and different ways in which they can be engaged. So the learning is looking at these three areas. And that takes us through Chapter 1.